being rude? Why are you being rude? I'm gonna show you to the people on camera. You want me to show your face on camera? I'm gonna show your face on camera. Why are you being rude? Why you look like I kidnapped you or something? Say hello. Say hello. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm basically doing my plant updates for my houseplant collection and just letting you know what's going on. I swear, every time I go to do a video, he decides to try to steal the show. But like I was saying, we're doing a plant updates video. I did take some notes so that way I could make sure I hit everything that I'm trying to hit and I wouldn't just like be scatterbrained and forgetting everything. So basically the first topic that I wanted to talk about was like my plant funk or like boredom with plants. And not just my plants, but plants in general. If you guys watch my top wish list plants that I ordered last year in December for my birthday, those were my top wish list plants. And I was so excited to get those plants. They came in really good condition. And I was just so happy. I was content with my plant collection. And I didn't really want anything after that. So I think that kind of led to me being kind of bored with plants because I didn't have anything else that I wanted. There wasn't anything else that I really wanted from my wish list. And so that was like one of the factors that, led to that, as well as I really don't order plants in the winter, or at least I try not to, just so I can decrease the amount of damage or just stress that I will have any plants coming into my home, because the majority of my plants I do order online, and that's just because of the plants that I'm looking for in my area. I just don't have a lot of good plants that I'm looking for, if that makes sense. Like if I want a plant that's on my wish list, I have to go online, or I don't really have really good nurseries. I do have one good nursery, but it tends to be on the expensive side. So that's just why I end up ordering more plants online. But I would love to be able to look for more plants locally. But yeah, so I just didn't really have any plants that I wanted to add to my home, as well as during that time I was naturally decreasing my plant content, so I wasn't consuming as much content on YouTube or like Instagram, and that's just because I as well as most of you guys have like an all or nothing kind of personality, or I can be very impulsive. And so a lot of the plants that I had in my collection I didn't necessarily need or wasn't like sparking joy anymore, and so I was also trying to work on that as well. And to be honest, a lot of channels on YouTube, or not a lot of channels, but some channels on YouTube are a little triggering for me. And what I mean for that is that they tend to cause me to be like a plant hoarder, or just a person who, if I see a plant, I'm just like, oh, I need that plant, or oh, I need that plant too. Even if I don't really want the plant, like deep down, if I think about it, I don't really want that plant. I think I'm buying it because I'm seeing it like online. It's the same thing if like a food commercial comes on. I'm just like, ooh, I could go for some French fries. Like the same thing happens with plants, and so I really decreased my plant content, and I stopped watching a lot of channels that were triggering me. So that also led me to not really, wanting to deal with plants. Plus it was winter time. It was like the winter blues. I just didn't feel like taking care of my plants. I really didn't water a lot of my plants. There was a month or two where I literally just watered my plants like once out of that entire month. And so I'm really surprised that my plants look as good as they do for the little bit of care that I gave them from January to like now. And so yeah, that's basically just explaining my plant funk and just like boredom with plants. I simply didn't have any plants I wanted to add to my collection. I was decreasing my plant content / social media, and I just really wasn't taking care of my own plants. And so that kind of led me to decluttering a bunch of plants, because like I was saying, I had some plants in my collection that I wasn't really feeling. I feel like I just bought them on a whim, or I bought them to host an experiment, and now that that experiment was over, I didn't necessarily need all the plants, and so that led me to declutter a lot of plants. I think I want to say I decluttered about 70 or so plants from my collection. I didn't think I even had that many to declutter, but when I went to count the empty pots, that's like all the pots that I had. And before I did the declutter, like all the pots were filled, so I decluttered about 70 plants or so. A handful were plants that I killed. Like, not, I actually don't kill a lot of plants. I don't really overwater. I don't really underwater. But some of them I killed due to neglect, and some of them I just wasn't like, I just didn't have joy with them anymore, so I decluttered. But yeah, so that happened with the decluttering. I'll elaborate more on that because I actually want to talk about like why I declutter certain plants, if I regret decluttering some plants, or if I would even repurchase some of those plants. So I just want to elaborate on that in a separate video. When I decluttered, I did move all of my plants to this main area, and so I don't really have any plants in my bedroom. And I just, one day I was just like, I don't really want any plants in my bedroom. So I took out like the majority of plants in my bedroom and moved them out here. And the reason why I did that is just because I got tired of waking up and seeing like 40 plants in my face in the morning. It just wasn't like very tranquil anymore. And so I just wanted to start over from scratch. And so that's what led me to move all those plants. I think I only have about 3 plants in my bedroom right now. I kind of want to keep it like more light and tranquil and airy, and just seeing all those plants every day wasn't like, it just like, it didn't cause me anxiety, but it just wasn't very like calming either. So I just would rather all the bulk of my plants be out here rather than my bedroom and seeing that first thing in the morning. The second reason why I moved the plants out here is because I wasn't turning on my Soltec light. Like, my Soltec light is on automatic timer. However, I would go in and turn it off because I switched out the timer. I have it plugged, like programmed to my phone. So I would go on my phone and turn off the timer so I could get a little bit more sleep. I would pull the blankets over and get a little bit more sleep. So I felt bad for those plants that were in my room not getting light because I decided to get more sleep. And so that was like another reason why I just moved them out here. But yeah, so majority of my plants are out here. I think I only have about like 10 or so plants in my bedroom, just to keep it like at a more, I don't want to say manageable, but just keep it at like a lighter feeling. I don't know how to describe that, but that's going on with the location of my plants. I do have them like categorized, so like by ferns and calatheas, like monsteras, philodendrons, and that makes it easier when it comes to watering. It was actually my boyfriend's idea because during the time where I wasn't taking care of my plants, he would try to water some of my plants, and so it was easier for him to know like, okay, I need to go water the prairie plants, and he would just go to that corner and just do that, and he just said it was a lot easier. And then when I started taking care of my plants again, I just found that it was easier just to keep them like kind of categorized. And also it helped me to see how many plants I have in that like one category. So that way I could determine if I wanted to buy more plants in that category or if I wanted to buy less. But so that's what's going on with the plant relocation and the current location. I also will be moving that Soltec light out of my bedroom and putting it out here. So I won't really have, I don't think I'll want any grow lights in my bedroom, just so it's like more natural lighting and I don't have that like bright light coming on, especially because that aspect light isn't dimmable. And so I just rather have it out here where it doesn't like affect my sleep. But it's still an amazing light. I still really like them, but I would rather just um, put it out here in the living room. As well as I decreased the amount of grow lights in my home. I only have um, the two Soltech lights on, even though I'm only really using one right now because I have to move that other one. So I have the two Soltech lights, and then I have the three Sansi lights. If you can see it right there. And I did have four Sansi lights, but one of the bulbs burned out, so I only have three. So right now I'm only using four grow lights, which is crazy to me because before I think I was using like 12 to 14 grow lights, because I did have those the three-headed lights, but after a while I just didn't like the way that was just looking, and it just, I don't know, it just looked weird to me. I want my lighting to be more natural going here, here on out. I just wanted it to look more natural. I don't want to have like lights, configured all over the place. And so I did take out all of my three-headed lights. I found that even taking out the three-headed lights, it encouraged me to have less plants, because when I had those three-headed lights, I was able to put more plants in areas where I couldn't normally have plants because I don't have a lot of lighting. I do have a lot of northeast windows, and so that automatically caused me to decrease plants. Like I said, I just didn't like the way it looked. And not to mention that one month we kept having power outages, and it just kept going out, so I had to keep restarting. I had to keep setting the timer, and that got annoying. So I just decided to go ahead and decrease the amount of my grow lights. I do have a couple plants that like really suffered during this time. This is my Aglaonema chocolate. It really isn't funny that this plant is, looking this bad. I mean, it doesn't look terrible, but it doesn't look good at the same time. So I figured that while I was on camera, I would go ahead and just like cut off the bad leaves. And this plant just looks like this because I just, I wasn't watering it. But now that I am watering it, it does look a lot better. And surprisingly, or weirdly enough, this plant bloomed a whole bunch, and it still has a bloom here. And at one point it had like 5 blooms, and I cut them off because I just got annoyed that this plant would not put out like a whole bunch of leaves, or would be dying back, and then it would still be putting out blooms. And so yeah, I don't know why, but this plant for me, it always declines, but it still puts out a ton of blooms. So I don't really understand that, but I know what I did wrong with this plant. I basically I had it under too much light. I had it right under one of my Sansi lights, and then I wasn't watering it, so it was like a double whammy. But it is growing. It does have like a little baby leaf here. It has some growth here, and these are the newest leaves, so this plant will recuperate. It just will look kind of bad for now. But yeah, that's like one of the plants that didn't really like do well during this whole time. But for the majority of my collection, I am kind of surprised that it looks good. Like, my collection looks relatively good for me not really caring. I did have a small case of spider mite, but that was on one plant. And then I had a little bit of thrift, but that was like relatively easy to get rid of. So like I said, the majority of my plants did fine. Most of them are like looking amazing. This is my Maranta lemon lime, and I don't know, it just like went crazy. As you can see, this one suffered a little bit too, but it still looks amazing. And the leaves had just gotten massive. And it actually bloomed a couple times, if you can see like some of these stalks. And here's a couple blooms left. And it started blooming after I put it under the Soltec light. It just went crazy with blooms. This and other couple of prayer plants just started blooming. But yeah, so I was really happy with how my prayer plants did, because for the most part, my prayer plants were like the ride or die. Like they did better than some of my other plants. So I was really surprised that they were the ones that didn't really do like the worst. Like I thought that if I didn't water my plants or take care of my plants that they would do the worst, but they actually did the best. And so yeah, that's an example of my plants looking pretty good. Another plant that I just like, and I can't believe I like did this, but at the same time I'm just like, it happened, is my my fibrosum. And as you can see, it looks really different than what it did in one of my previous videos. And that's just because, like I said, I wasn't watering it, and you can see that leaf there. But I think what I'm going to do with this plant is that I'm just going to chop it back and just propagate it. I think I'm just going to chop it and propagate it. I've actually wanted to propagate it for a while because I would rather have like a bushier plant than a plant that's climbing. And so I think that's actually what we're going to do today. So let's get to chopping. And I propagated this plant before when I first struggled with this plant, when I couldn't get it to first root. And so I'm kind of nervous, but not really nervous to do it again. But yeah, we're just gonna do it because otherwise it's not really gonna look good. And also I think it needs a bigger pot, to be honest, because I have to water this plant very frequently, and it just doesn't seem normal. So I'm just gonna take some cuttings and I'm gonna propagate them in water like I did before. And we're just gonna start this plant over basically. But yes, this is a plant that definitely needs to be kept moisturized, and that's just because of all of the fur. This is one of the plants that you don't want to let dry out. And I'm kind of nervous about chopping this one because normally you want to leave a leaf if you have a bud, and that's just so the plant can photosynthesize easier. But as you see, this stalk is like nothing but stem, and so I'm just going to chop it and see if I can get it to still propagate. I think the first time I got this plant to propagate, all of my stems didn't have leaves, and it was still successful. But I think I'm just going to cut this one all the way back to, I think I'm just going to cut it all the way back to the soil. So I should get a couple cuttings from this plant. And as you can see, it does have some like roots coming out of there. So that should make it easier to propagate. And we're just gonna leave that there. But for this one, and I should have been taking off some of these husks. That way I can make sure I'm paying attention to any pests. But obviously I wasn't taking care of my plants, so yeah. And if you have any, if you guys are curious about my other two furry plants, they're actually doing really well. Those were actually the ones that I kind of monitored the most during that time. So those actually are doing really well, and I'll show those in my upcoming houseplant tour. And I'm just gonna cut this on. And that'll be the last cutting. And so I kind of don't want to throw this away because this might have some activated buds. Not only that, but it has all of the root system, so I'm going to keep this as well. But I'm going to show you how many cuttings I have now that I've chopped this plant all the way back. So far I have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 3 of them don't have leaves, and then the 4 have leaves. And so yeah, if I am able to successfully propagate this plant, it'll be a lot fuller and a much prettier plant, with the exception of this leaf, but that doesn't bother me. And so I'd rather have the plant be more filled out and bushy than it just being straggly and tall and climbing. But yeah, so I have all these cuttings. I'm going to put them in water like I said, and we're going to get that going. The only other plant that I want to basically start over is my Philodendron squamiferum, so I'll do that in another video. But I think that is the only other plant. Yeah, that's the only other plant that I just basically want to take all the way back down. And it's because it has a mixture of smaller and larger leaves, and so I just kind of want to clean it up and get that redone. Also, the pot that it's in is too small, and so I just want to go ahead and just like fix everything, but I will do that in another video. The next thing I want to talk about is orders and like buying plants for this year. Like I said in another video, I am not really buying a whole lot of plants. Like I don't want to do a no buy, but I want to do like a low buy, and that's because simply I don't have a lot of plants that I want to really buy right now. I don't know if I'm going to be in this apartment at the end of the year because my lease is up, and so I don't want to be moving a lot of plants. I don't want to be moving a lot of like bigger plants, and so I'm trying not to really buy a lot of plants right now. If I do buy plants, I want to buy like smaller plants, plants that are easily being able to transport, or plants that I'm just filling a pot of a plant that I previously owned. I did order a couple Hoyas, and that's just because I already have Hoyas and they're pretty small, so I just wanted to go ahead and fill out the pot. I'm pretty sure they're coming Friday, so I'll probably do an unboxing for that. But yeah, I only ordered Hoyas and Codex plants for right now, and I kind of just want to try something new, which is why I'm trying the Codex plants. My mom has had Codex plants for a couple of years now, and I always wanted to try one, but I never did because I just thought I didn't have enough light. But I did some research, and I found out that most Codex plants, or the ones that I was looking at, can be grown in my home, or I can put them outside in the summer, which most of them do really well outside, so that's why I ordered some Codex plants. And yeah, so the Hoyas and the Codex plants are probably the only plants in the bedroom, just because I like that look better. I want it to be like a lot less plants in my room. And also wanted to buy a couple plants before the growing season, and that's just because I feel it's just more fun to buy plants before the summer starts. It is still really cold here. It's like 40s, like low 50s here at night, and it's still really cold during the day. And so I wanted to go ahead and place this order and buy the plants now, so that way I would have them before the growing season. I mean, I do buy plants, in the fall, and I try not to buy them in the winter. I just found that it's not as fun buying plants like after the growing season, because then like all the plants have done all their work. There's nothing left really. I mean, I do have some plants that grow in the winter, but it's just more rewarding when you see them growing in the summer. So I kind of wanted to buy the plants now and enjoy all of that growth. And yeah, so that's why I ordered these plants now. And then as far as care for my plants, most of my plants are on autopilot, which is why I also ordered some plants, and I wanted to try the Codex plants, which I try not to try too many new plants while having plants, but since my plants are on autopilot, I figured this was a time to go ahead and try a different kind of plant. The only thing I really have to do with my plants is just maintain, like watering. I do need to start fertilizing again because I fell off on fertilizing, so I do need to do that. But the majority of the things that I need to do for my plants is just to repot them, because a lot of them, they really need new pots. So that's the only thing I need to do. That's why I ordered a couple plants this year, because I don't really have much to do besides just keeping up on watering and fertilizing. And so yeah, I think that's all of the updates I have for my plant collection. There are a couple projects I want to do for my plants, mainly ferns and things like that, to get some of my plants off of my surfaces. But yeah, I think that's all the updates that I wanted to give you guys, just so you guys can be aware of what's going on in my plant collection, because I have been getting questions about my fertilizer or the lights or things like that. And really right now I'm just waiting for it to warm up so I can put my plants outside. I am ready to put my plants outside. That way they can just, have their little summer vacation. And also for my Codex plants, when they come in the mail, they do need warmer temperatures, so I'm also waiting for that. So basically I'm just waiting for summer, or it to get warmer, and things will really get going. But now that I'm making content again and I'm getting back in the swing of taking care of my plants, things should run a little bit more smoothly. And I'll do that houseplant tour before the plants go outside. And it's not supposed to really warm up in my area until the second week of May, and so it's gonna be cold for a little bit longer. So yeah, I will give you guys an update on my fibrosum cuttings, just so you guys know what's going on with that. And yeah, that's basically it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it wasn't too long or boring, but I just wanted to let you know let you guys know the current state of my plant collection and where I'm at. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, liking, and subscribing, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.